Hare Krishna. Let us understand Bhagavad Gita chapter by chapter, section by section. To begin with, let us offer our prayers to our spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and to the Supreme Lord. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrandam Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Shabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we will be understanding section 3 of chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. Section 3 is entitled Symptoms of a Person in Full Knowledge of Action. So let us understand this section. Lord Krishna says, Kim karma kima karmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha Tatte karma pravakshyami yajñatva mokshase shubhat. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all sins. So here Krishna is directly instructing Arjuna, and he is explaining to him that I will teach you what is action, how you should act, so that ultimately you will get liberated. The whole purpose of Vedic instructions given by the Supreme Lord, is to remove us from the entanglement of this material world. We are all trapped in this material body, we are all spirit souls, parts of God. But because we are fallen in this material world and we are trapped in this material body, we are suffering in this world. And we have to learn how to act, what is action, what is forbidden action, what is action which doesn't produce any material reactions. All these things have to be learned. Therefore Krishna, the God, the Supreme Lord himself is teaching us what is action and what is inaction. So we have to learn these confidential subjects from the Supreme Lord or the pure devotees who have learned from the Supreme Lord in the disciplic succession. Just like Krishna instructed this knowledge long ago to Sun God. Sun God instructed to his son Manu, Manu instructed to his son Ikshvaku. In this way, the confidential knowledge of how to act in this material world, so that we can be free from the fruitive reactions of work, is received in the parampara, and we have to learn that. So when Krishna detected that parampara was lost, the disciplic succession was lost, and that knowledge was lost, he again chose Arjuna to re-establish the disciplic succession. So Krishna is telling that even most intelligent people are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. So I will teach you now, knowing which you will become free from all sins. So let us understand what Krishna teaches, how to act and how to become free from all sinful reactions. So Krishna says, Karmano hyapi bodhavyam cha vikarmana akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatiri. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is what forbidden action is and what inaction is. So Krishna is here telling that the intricacies of action is very hard to understand, because in this material world we are all influenced by the modes of material nature. We forget the original understanding, the true understanding that I am part of God, I am eternal servant of God, my only business is to serve God. This understanding is not there because we have forgotten. So it is very, very difficult to revive one's Krishna consciousness, because we are deeply involved in activities pertaining to the body and increasing bodily pleasures and decreasing bodily pain. So in that way we have got entangled in these actions. So actions which are in line with the Vedic scripture, which are according to one's own prescribed duties, they are called karma or punya karma. And actions which are against Vedic instructions, which are sinful activities like meat eating, gambling, intoxication, illicit connection with opposite sex, cheating, plundering, harming other living beings, lust, greed, anger, envy, all these type of actions are called forbidden actions or vikarma. And the third type of action is inaction, or actions which does not produce any material reactions. They are called transcendental activities, or activities which are meant for pleasing God, or devotional activities. So a wise man, he performs only devotional activities, only activities meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord. He is intelligent among men, and because he knows that just by performing devotional activities, he becomes free from all reactions to work and he enjoys transcendental pleasure. So Krishna is telling here the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. So therefore one should properly know what action is, what inaction is, and what forbidden action is. So these are the three types of actions. We should not perform action or forbidden action. We have to perform inaction. Inaction means devotional activities meant only for pleasing the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Krishna is telling, Karmanya karma yah pashyed akarmani cha karmayah sabuddhiman manushyeshu sayukta kritsna karma krit. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So here Krishna is explaining the symptom of a learned man, a devotee who knows how to act. A devotee, he sees inaction in action. People in this material world, they are fully busy in material activities, activities meant for increasing their sense pleasures and activities meant for decreasing material pains. They are called material activities. So people are mostly busy in these activities, how to increase material enjoyment and how to decrease bodily pain such as diseases. So they don't know the aim of life is to get liberated from this material world and go back to the Supreme Lord. They don't know this goal of life. So they think that to live here happily in this material world by increasing bodily pleasures is the goal of life. So they are actually, even though very busy, to so to say, spiritually they are inactive. Therefore, a intelligent man, a devotee, sees inaction in action, because they are inactive spiritually. They are not doing any spiritual activity, any activity meant to please God. They are inactive. Even though materially they are very, very active to please their own personal sense pleasures, to increase their sense pleasures and decrease their pain, they are very, very active. Even though they are active, actually in true sense they are inactive. So a devotee sees that the ignorant mass of people are inactive even though they are materially active. And then action in inaction. A devotee, even though he may be sitting in one place and meditating on God, or he may be chanting the holy names of God, for a materialistic person, it appears that devotees are wasting their time simply chanting names of God and doing nothing. So, in terms of a materialist, a devotee may be inactive by not running around here and there to work hard and increase their bodily pleasures and decrease their bodily pains. But actually a devotee is awake spiritually, therefore he is active. That is true action. Actions meant for pleasing God is true action. So even though externally he may be not active the way materialist is, but he has already awakened his Krishna consciousness, he has already connected with the Supreme Lord in love and devotion, so he is very active. And a devotee, Sabuddhiman Manusheshu Sayukta Kritsna Karma Krit. It's not that a devotee who just sits in one corner and just keeps meditating. He performs all activities which are meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord. Just like Arjuna, after he heard Bhagavad Gita and after he understood that he is part of Krishna and his business is just to please Krishna, he fought very vigorously and shot arrows and killed all the enemies. So he performed actions as a Kshatriya. So in the same way, a devotee does all activities. A devotee goes to the market, purchases fruits, vegetables, grains. A devotee oversees constructions of the temple. A devotee goes around and teaches people the science of Bhagavad Gita. A devotee cooks for the Lord. He decorates the Lord. He worships the Lord. He organizes festivals for the Lord. He also collects donations. He does business to increase the wealth of the temple. So in that way, devotee can involve in all sorts of activities which are meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord. So even though a devotee engages in all sorts of activities, he does not enjoy or suffer the resultant reactions, because these actions are all meant for pleasing the Supreme Lord. He is not entangled by the resultant reactions. He only enjoys transcendental pleasure. He is very happy to do any sorts of activity for pleasing the Supreme Lord under the direction of a pure devotee, a spiritual master. Further, Krishna says, Yasya sarve samarambha kama sankalpa varjita jnanagni daktha karmanam tamahu panditam buddha. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every act is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be worker whose fruitive action is burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So here we can see Krishna is again explaining the symptom of a devotee who is situated in true knowledge. His action, he performs all actions which are devoid of sense gratification. A devotee does not perform any action meant for pleasing his personal senses, but he performs actions which may be painful to the senses if it is pleasing to the Supreme Lord. Just like Arjuna, he didn't want to fight because it was painful for him to kill his own friends and relatives. But when he understood that Krishna is pleased by his actions, he fought very vigorously and he killed his own grandfather Bhishma by shooting innumerable arrows. So because he knew that Krishna is pleased, even though it is not pleasing to him. So a devotee undergoes all sorts of material pains. He undergoes all sorts of tapasya for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. So he is said to be the worker whose fruitive action is burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So this knowledge that I am eternal servant of Krishna, my duty is just to please Krishna, this acts like fire. Just like fire consumes any amount of fuel you supply, in the same way, a devotee who is situated in perfect knowledge of Krishna consciousness, he is not at all entangled by the resultant reactions to his work, because he performs work only for pleasing God and not for his personal sense enjoyment. Then further Krishna says, Tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya tripto nirashrayah karmani abhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. So a devotee, because he is situated in pure knowledge that I am eternal servant of the Supreme Lord Krishna, he performs all activities and is satisfied. He is not affected by the results of those activities. Sometimes there may be failures in his actions, but still he knows that he is not in control of the results. He has performed his duty to the best of his ability, so he is Nitya Tripta. And Nirashraya is fully independent. He knows that every situation is actually created by the Lord, and he is not at all worried if something desirable does not happen. He knows that whatever is happening is by the will of the Lord. He just has to perform his duty under the direction of a expert spiritual master. So in that way he is very, very satisfied, and he goes on serving Krishna, and he undertakes all sorts of risks for pleasing Guru and Krishna. Further, Krishna says, Nirashiryata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha shariram kevalam karma kurvan napnoti kilbisham. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence, perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. So a devotee knows that I am not this material body, I am spirit soul. So he does not neglect his material body, he maintains his material body. Just like by maintaining the vehicle nicely, we can use it very nicely for our works. By maintaining a machine nicely, we can utilize that machine for producing the products. In the same way, a devotee does not neglect his material body, but he is not attached to this body. He knows that I am independent of this body, I am spirit soul, and he uses this body for just pleasing the Supreme Lord, and he does not increase the sensual demands of the body. He is not behind various sensual pleasurable objects. So he just maintains the body just like we maintain some vehicle. And in that way, he is Nirashir Yata Chittatma. He is fully controlled. Just like a butcher, he controls the sheep or a goat in his possession. So the goat is fully surrendered to the butcher. If the butcher gives him some grass to eat, it will eat, and if he cuts the throat, it will die. In the same way, devotee is fully surrendered to Krishna and his will, and he depends on Krishna even for maintenance of his own body. So therefore, he is free from all effects of reactions to his past fruitive activities, and he is free from all sin. Further, Krishna says, Yadrichhalabha santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha samaha siddhava siddhavcha kritvapi na nibadhyate. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady both in success and failure, is never entangled although performing actions. So a devotee, he is always satisfied with whatever results he gets. Yatricha labha santushto. He performs his duties very honestly, and whatever results he gets by his honest endeavor, he accepts it as a mercy of the Lord. He does not envy anyone else who has achieved, so to say, more success in his life. So he knows that if someone else is getting more success, that is because he deserves it. If someone is getting some pain, he knows that it is because of his own past actions. So a devotee does not envy anyone else, and is satisfied with whatever results he gets according to the will of the Lord or according to the laws of karma, and he performs his actions honestly and is not attached to the results. Sama siddhava siddhavcha kritvapi na nibadhyate. And a devotee, even though there may be some suffering sometimes, or there may be some pleasure sometimes, he is neutral. He is not affected by success or failure, and he undergoes all sorts of risks for pleasing the Supreme Lord. So in that way, he is always satisfied. Then further Krishna says, Gata sangasya muktasya jnana avastita chetasaha yajnaya charatah karma samagram praviliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. So here we can see the symptom of a devotee who is not attached to any sort of material activities. He is fully situated in transcendence, because all the actions he performs, he knows it is all by the will of the Lord, and he performs it just for pleasing the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the results of that actions are also offered to the Supreme Lord, and every act he performs is a sacrifice, because sacrifice means any activity done for pleasing the Lord is called a sacrifice. So a devotee who is situated in true knowledge that I am eternal servant of Krishna, my business is just to please Krishna, he performs his activities only for pleasing God. Therefore, every act he does is a yajna, and the results of that action is also spiritual. It is also enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it merges into the transcendence. So, this is the section where Krishna has clearly described three types of actions: karma, akarma and vikarma. Karma means actions which are prescribed in the scriptures, which are fruitive in nature and which will gradually elevate one and make him advance spiritually. Karma means forbidden actions, and akarma means devotional actions which does not produce any material reactions, but it liberates one from this material entanglement and reconnects him with the Supreme Lord. So we should not do karma or vikarma, we should only do akarma. Akarma means devotional activities. So in this section, clearly Krishna has described these three activities and the symptoms of a person situated in akarma or devotional activity. So we all should become devotees of Krishna by chanting the holy names of Krishna, especially the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So in this age of Kali, by chanting the holy names of the Supreme Lord Krishna, we can advance spiritually. So in this way, we can become free from the results of all our past fruitive activities and become free from this material entanglement. So let us see in the next section what Krishna will describe. Hare Krishna.